Happy Veterans Day, Mr. Jabor.
Happy Veterans Day to you. Thank you for your service, Dave Pounder, and thank you to all who have served, whether it's a couple of years or 30 years. Thank you to every veteran and their loved ones, Dave, who've served.
Yeah, underappreciated part is the family, right? Because
Yeah,
even though like the service member clearly, thank you for your service, but the family has to be there side by side with that service member.
yeah,
We saw this all too often. I mean, most of our military careers were in a state of war, and so that was a lot of people doing a lot of deployments and we've talked about ours. And so again, thank you for your service. There's a lot of opportunities out there for all veterans, and so please enjoy this day. And for those who know veterans and maybe not have served themselves, that's fine. But please thank a veteran. I think it's just always important. So, Andy, anything stands out on this day for you, or?
No, I can't help but just sort of like scroll through the movie of my time in the military and on Veterans Day. Just so I sort of just I just think back to different experiences from from when I first started to my deployments, a lot of highs and lows, to be honest with you, and um, it just so much goes through my mind, and um, I think about those I got to serve with. I think about those that didn't get to come home, and you know, as we think about this in 2024, I'll say one thing I do appreciate about the last several years, from Donald Trump's presidency to Joe Biden's, we're fighting less wars.
Yeah.
And that's just reality, right? We fought a lot of wars during our time, as you mentioned earlier, Dave. We were deployed in a lot of places. That's less now, and I think in Donald Trump's case, as he comes back to office, I think they'll probably continue to be. I don't think he's too excited to throw Americans into foreign adventures, and for that, to be honest, I'm grateful. While I think we should always be prepared to defend freedom, around the world, that's be done smartly, and that doesn't always mean putting U.S. troops on the ground. And so I'm appreciative of that, to be honest with you, both again, to Trump and Biden for decreasing military deployments around the world. There's a lot of things we can do differently still and better, but that's one area that I think is definitely a positive, at least amongst all the other things going on.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I mean, I think it's in a rightfully so. We don't need to be the world's policeman. I think America got forced into that role after World War II. And for some point, there was a real existential threat there.
Yeah,
I think the world is different and you can do things different. You can deploy the military much faster and easier ways than you could sailing across the ocean. And so I think there's a lot of opportunities there. But for all those service members, there's still a lot of conflict ongoing. There's still a lot of things, people in harm's way today. So we do thank you for all of that, and we do look forward to better opportunities for that. I do get worried, like on Veterans Day, I do get worried. I think we have less and less veterans.
yeah,
I think the way the military, and I don't argue with the way that's an all volunteer military. I think that's really important. It's the professionalization of the military.
yeah,
I think that is really important too. But I do worry, like, especially when you have people in leadership positions around the world, the military gives you discipline, leadership, a lot of great attributes. And the less people that are joining the military and then transitioning to successful civilian careers, especially in those key positions. We've talked about the politicians all the time. Look at our political class today. I think a lot of those people would be better off having served time in true service to their country, in true service. So,
yeah.
um, anywho, but that's my rant or that's my blurb for the day. So,
You blub away, Dave Pounder. You
I
served, and
blub.
you can blub as much as you want.
Okay, Andy, let's get into let's get into it. NFL, Andy, what a weekend. I thought this was going to be a dud weekend, frankly. I think there's a lot of dud games, but man, even the starting from start to finish yesterday was quite exciting. The Panthers versus the Giants, again, wasn't a great game, but had its moments and it came down to overtime.
Yeah,
And then your Detroit Lions, Andy, at halftime, I didn't think it was going to go your way. and I was fully coming on board and saying, well, this is a good loss for you guys. You get a loss out of the way and you can run the rest of the table. But a late night for you, Andy, but a rewarding night.
It was. I mean, thank goodness today is a holiday. I gave myself a couple extra hours to sleep. To be honest, I don't think I would have made it. It was exhilarating. I mean, like I said, Dave, those bookend games, very different quality teams, in those two games, but wild ones. I'm glad the German people got to enjoy a good battle in Germany. That's great. And with the 1 o'clock games, early games, some wild football. I mean, look, yeah, the late games were terrible games. And I
Yeah.
watched the late. I didn't watch the early games. I watched the late games. Three lopsided games with teams in very different directions. Your Cowboys and the Giants are maybe the worst teams in the NFL. Dave, you said that last week, and I think you might be
I
right about
said
the
we were the
Cowboys.
worst team
You
last week,
did.
Andy.
You did. No, I think you very well might be right. They looked awful. But the early games, and there's some exciting football
Yeah.
all around. I mean, maybe the Steelers and Commanders being the most exciting. But yeah, last night's Lions game, Dave, I mean, wow. Lions fans were going nuts. Jared Goff was throwing balls everywhere but to Lions. I mean, some crazy football, but a tale of two halves, Dave. Is one of the great things about football. You play 4 quarters, you play 60 minutes, you play all the way through, and teams of character don't stop playing till the whistle blows. The Lions didn't stop, had ample opportunity to lose that game, but shut the Texans out in the second half, came back and put points on the board when it mattered, and our young kicker, Jake Bates, delivered two amazing, killing me close to the polls kicks to tie it up. The Texans missed a game potentially winning field goal. Lions came back and put it through the uprights to win the game. Unbelievable victory. So on one hand, you've got the Lions with a great win yesterday in Houston, and then you've got the Chiefs remaining undefeated, also on a field goal, but remarkably a blocked field goal, which was just crazy to see. So a great weekend in football, Dave. A great weekend in football.
Yeah, I felt bad for my son who's a Denver fan, and
Yeah,
they deserve that win there. But you gotta block, you
gotta
gotta
make.
block, and they had the Chiefs. If you look back at that block, I mean their whole left side of the Denver line just effectively collapsed, and,
Yeah,
and I don't like it was. I mean, five people could have blocked that kick, I think, and so I felt bad for them. You talked about just the Lions real quickly. Did you ever feel? I mean, look at that kicker, and he was a brick salesman a couple
yeah,
years ago.
yeah,
Gave up on football. The XFL brought him back in. And this is where I think the XFL has a lot of value. Like,
yeah,
look, people like they're not all going to be pro athletes, but they're good athletes, and maybe one or two of those people, and I'm sure there's more on pro rosters.
yeah.
But the XFL in the spring, it's fun football, and then those people can contribute. Field goal kicking is a key part of every game
It
now,
is.
and he's been great.
Yeah, the XFL now UFL, now UFL,
Oh,
and
that's right. It's UFL. That's right. The
that's right.
merge.
But you're right. I mean, the Lions went through a lot of kickers, could not keep a kicker on the roster that was good. Finally, Jake Bates came up to UFL, was on the Michigan Panthers. Lions fans were like, "Get this kid on Detroit!" And as soon as UFL season was over, Brad Holmes, being the best GM in all of football, went out, got him on the team, kept faith in him, even when early on it looked like maybe Jake wasn't going to be the guy, but he stayed with him, and man, that kid delivered yesterday. It is key. You've got to have a kicker. Not having to go for on fourth down is important. And Dan Campbell, is not shy to go for it on fourth, but those kicks were killer. I mean, they were right on, dangerously close, but
Yeah.
it happened. So yeah, I agree. The UFL does have a good value to the NFL and to fans, to
Yep.
keep going. So it's exciting to see that. But yeah, man, a great week. But Dave, really, I mean, the Giants and the Cowboys. I mean, who'd have thought, at the start of the season that those two teams were going to be like literally awful. I mean, they're done. Both those
I did.
teams.
I did.
I mean, they're done. I mean, Dak's out. Cooper Rush looked terrible
They
yesterday.
didn't have
Trey
50
Lance
yards
came in,
passing, Andy. They didn't have 50 yards passing.
and they couldn't do anything. I mean, Trey Lance came in with just was threw a pick almost immediately. I think. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, that team really. looks pretty rough. But I mean, again, there were some other really cool. The
Andy,
CMC is back. The Niners are playing football, potentially scary. The Eagles look good. I mean, there's some good football out there.
Andy, the Cowboys lost because there's a hole in the roof and the sun was really it
Oh,
was bad on the Cowboys. The Eagles somehow like they scored they used it to their advantage, Andy,
yeah,
and the Cowboys who play home games in
yeah.
this somehow found it.
Home
So
field disadvantage.
yeah, home field disadvantage. Like Jerry's going to put up curtains now, I think, and over the stadium. By the way, he built that stadium, so like I
Yeah,
don't know who's going.
yeah,
Okay, Andy, the Niners have come back. I think we're starting to see that true separation between the haves and the have-nots. Now, there's a lot of really bad football. Jacksonville's bad. Minnesota's eking these things out.
yeah,
But they're really not that I don't think strong. I think the Sam Darnold is a good story. I'm happy for him, but he's not the long term there. JJ McCarthy will be. You have a bunch of other, you said CMC's back for the Niners, but they still needed to eke out
yeah,
a win over. Look, I got to give Baker Mayfield and Tampa Bay a ton of
yeah.
credit.
Love
They
Baker.
have their top two receivers are out, and they are still hanging in there and playing these tough games. Two more plays, Andy, and they could be completely opposite.
Yeah,
Um, but the Chiefs keep eking these things out. And then you have these battles. Looking at all the quarterbacks. Obviously, the rookie quarterbacks, Jaden Daniels is clearly still number one.
yeah,
Drake May is looking pretty good, though. I mean, it's still a bad football team. And then Bo Nix, like
yeah. Playing
they're
football.
2 wins away from being really good. I think that Denver is going to be a playoff team. And then Caleb Williams, the number one pick,
Yeah.
that Chicago team, they're in bad shape, I think. So
They are. They don't have a good coach, and they
yeah,
weren't. I mean, there was some hype around them just because they were so excited about Caleb Williams. But and they've got some talent on the roster, but they're not a good team yet. I mean, they could
yeah.
be. They could be, and they might be, but not this season. Not for sure. Not this year. And not with Matt. If he's calling the shots, he's just not. He's not an NFL head coach. But I mean, there's some exciting football for sure. There is some talent. There is some separation, like you said. I mean, the NFC. You're seeing the Lions, the Eagles. Maybe the Niners, they get healthy. I mean, George Kittle's catch yesterday was unbelievable. There's some good teams, and there's some, strong, maybe make the playoffs, but you're not going to go very far teams. Washington's a good example. I think the Packers probably fall into that group right now, at least. But Dave, one of the highlights yesterday, I mean, I've got to say it, like Aaron Rodgers and the Jets suck. They suck. Kyler Murray and the
Yeah.
Cardinals like punched him in the balls over and over, and the Jets just could do nothing. They've got talent on that team, but that team just sucks. And look, Dave, it wasn't the head coach. Who knew? Who knew that it wasn't Robert Salah? And what I love is like America stands united in hating Aaron Rodgers and the Jets, and I love it. Like just scrolling through threads and seeing the Aaron Rodgers like hate, like it warms my heart. And I think like in this post-election week, as America remains divided and hurt, let us come together and rally together around the absolute failure that is the New York Jets. I mean, it is hilarious to watch. That team genuinely blows. I love it. Like I did not know I would. I mean, I don't hate the Jets, but I love to watch them collapse right now. Aaron Rodgers,
They're-
just retire, brother.
it's a fun storyline. It's
Yeah,
definitely a fun storyline. Andy, we'll have more football to talk on Wednesday because you
yeah.
have a Monday night game tonight. The Cowboys play Monday night next week, Andy, and that's going to be awful. So, all
And
right,
big Thursday night game this week.
big Thursday night game too. We've got the Chiefs are who the Chiefs are
No,
playing.
Commanders,
No,
Eagles.
no, Commanders Eagles. That's right, Commanders Eagles.
Yeah,
Yeah, for first place in that division.
yeah,
I think the Eagles are going to wind up doing it, but
they
we'll
should.
see. So,
Yeah,
all right, Andy, let's go to look. We talked about Veterans Day here on the
yeah,
11th of November, the 11th day, 11th month, 11th hour. Big thing there. Andy, another big history milestone was over this weekend on November 9th, on
yeah.
Saturday, was the fall of the Berlin Wall. For us growing up in the 80s, Andy, this was a one unbelievable a piece of history
Yeah.
because we grew up only in a state of, we talked about the Cold War. We referenced it a little bit earlier about how America was pushed into this from Russia and all this other stuff. The reality is this Berlin Wall really signified that conflict.
Yeah.
As growing up in the 80s, I did have the opportunity. My family lived in Germany, 1983 to 85. We did go to Berlin to visit while we were there. We had to take the train at night because Russia would not allow you to get into East Germany during the day to see
Yeah.
what was going on there. And then you woke up, so we had the train, like the sleeping cars and stuff. So that was a fun experience as an 8, 9 year old growing up there. And then to see that, and then we went back years later when my family was there in 2012 or 2013 to see where the wall is no longer, but except you see the remnants of it on the streets. They do a great job there. But big event, you wrote about it, Andy. So talk to me about it.
I did. I mean, I think it got missed, to be honest, by America. Like we were
Yeah.
so focused on post-election, this really got passed over by most people, and the media really didn't report it very well. 35 years, major milestone. I mean, we've got a lot of young voters today that don't share that memory we have, Dave, of like understanding, that freedom wasn't always there, right? A divided Germany, like people can't imagine that. Like, I mean, the Iron Curtain and the Soviet bloc, like that's just, it's not real for a lot of people, but it's very real for us. And I feel like, as we go through this current transition in the United States, we look to, where we are politically, some decisions we're making, some leaders we're electing. I think it's a great time to pause and think back to, what those Germans fought for in that peaceful revolution, the incredible moment that it was as the Berlin Wall came down. As I shared in the post that I wrote, you've got the Scorpions singing about the winds of change. You got Boris Yeltsin there as a Soviet flag gets pulled down just a couple years later, and the Russian flag for a brief moment looking like a new symbol of freedom, was raised in Moscow. It was a remarkable time that unfortunately was fleeting, and like we didn't really build on what that was and could have been. There's a lot of reasons for that, kind of coming back to what we were talking about earlier, the terrorism threat that evolved and the wars and conflicts that followed. Like a lot of things happened, but it was truly incredible time. And the mayor of Berlin spoke about it. And I love his simple quote here. Speaking to people of Berlin on this 35th anniversary, he was really pleading with them. But I think the message goes much further. And I feel like he was really talking to the world and talking to us. And he says, uphold freedom, celebrate freedom, because without freedom, everything is nothing. And I think that's like it's very sort of simple in what he said there, but as Mayor Wegner says those words, I think it's important for us to sort of reflect on that. Like if we don't protect our fundamental freedoms, like everything else falls apart. And I feel like we're at a time right now where people are willing to sort of give up some of those freedoms, sometimes in the name of freedom, which is what's remarkable. And we've
Yeah.
got to sort of really remember, like what the rights and privileges that we joyfully celebrate here in the United States, like those aren't guaranteed. Those aren't promised to us. They might not be there tomorrow if you don't keep fighting for them. And I just really feel like it's a time to sort of appreciate what happened. If you're not familiar with the fall of the Berlin Wall, you should check it out, like read about it, watch some videos, like understand like how consequential that was. It was an incredible moment in history, and we should really pause and celebrate that. And I mean, congratulations to German people because I think it's just a phenomenal moment in the world.
Yeah, and I give a lot of credit. I mean, we've talked a lot about our love of Germany and the German people, German food particularly as well too.
Oh
But
yeah,
but Andy, like, if you want to talk about a like a way to bring people together, look at how Germany responded to the fall of the Berlin Wall
yeah,
and how they brought East Germany
yeah, amazing.
into the unified Germany then years later. And I think it's just really important because it was such a sharp contrast in styles. We went to the DDR Museum in Berlin, which is what they show you is what it was like in East Berlin
Yeah,
or East Germany. I mean, I guess you could say too, what it was like in East Germany versus what West Germany or Germany, the larger Germany as a whole. Such an amazing and very impactful museum to walk through. And I think they just did a great job of bringing that country together. And they're a world power for a lot of different reasons. Their economy is very strong. They have challenges just like everybody in the
Yeah,
world does. But I do feel like it's a great history lesson, and I do feel people would be like, that could never happen today. It can happen today,
yeah,
and there are. I mean, it's happening in look at Korea right now. Look at North and South Korea. There are a lot of places where this can happen if we don't remember those simple truths about the freedoms that we enjoy and fighting for those freedoms and keeping those freedoms. So,
yeah.
very important lessons for sure.
Yeah, no, 100% spot on that, Dave. And I really think our failure to appreciate history in the past is a big risk to our future. And
Yep.
I think understanding what that time was with the Soviet bloc, the East versus West, the Cold War, the phenomenal series of events that transpired, and how we got to that freedom moment in history. I hope that as we get through the current turmoil of the world, we can get back to a place where we can really celebrate global freedom and progress towards independence and liberty. The potential was there. It failed. Not worth mentioning. Vladimir Putin was instrumental in that entire collapse of that opportunity. He came into power in 1999 and has been instrumental in frustrating freedom since. I think it's important to recognize that, and it's important to fight that, and to fight for more freedom and more liberty. Because as I wrote, Dave, if we're not moving forward towards more freedom, we're probably moving backwards to less freedom, and that should never be the reality. So, on this Veterans Day, I'm glad we could serve our nation, and I hope we can continue to fight for freedom, whatever comes, foreign or domestic.
There you go, Andy, but very well said. Andy, let's do this last segment. We got a couple wrap up items. I have a larger news item I want to bring up, but I'll
Okay.
hold that for Wednesday, Andy.
Okay.
I've been doing some analysis around headlines, and I've seen a bunch of headlines over and I think it just really points to like this is why the media is becoming a distrusted source.
Yeah.
But we'll hold that till
Okay. All
Wednesday,
right. Good
and
teaser.
we'll do that. So, Andy, a couple things I did. I had a great my oldest daughter and wife went on a like a barnstorming tour of the South to look at
I
some
saw some of those
schools.
photos, Dave. It's exciting.
Yeah, so like my daughter got accepted to Alabama and Ole Miss, and so she wanted to go see those campuses. And Ole Miss had a great experience there because they played number two Georgia,
Oh
and they
yeah.
ended up beating them. So it was a
Yeah.
little crazy football environment there. So she got to see that, and Alabama was a really beautiful campus. And then she also checked out Auburn as a drive-by there to see that as well. Though she didn't apply there, I don't know if she will or not. But still a lot of college choices to go through. So my point is, I had good one-on-one time with my youngest daughter.
Yeah.
We went and saw the movie Wild Robot, so that was pretty fun. It was a very good movie.
Yeah.
But we also like we were watching it just we're like, hey, we're just putzing around. We pulled up Ratatouille, Andy. Do you remember this Disney
Yeah.
movie
Yeah.
Ratatouille? And the core piece of it, other than the rat, is the chef. I mean, obviously, but spoiler alert. But the critic was a big piece of this, Andy. Like he was a food critic, and like he was going to make or break this restaurant.
Yeah.
It got me to thinking, are critics dead? Like, because look, this Wild Robot movie too is it kind of plays into that. It's like it's a good movie, it's a really good movie, but I don't know if it was necessarily like well received. But we had a great time. It's doing well at the box office. I didn't look at one critic review of this or not to determine if I should go to it.
Yeah.
I just wanted to go to it. Like, in as a food critic, should we go places? Are these roles dead? I guess.
I, to a certain extent, I mean, it's definitely different. Like when we grew up, right? Siskel and Ebert, right? Two thumbs up.
Yeah,
They could kill it. They could kill a movie, right? They could kill a
you could.
movie. And I think part of the great democracy of the internet is that everybody's a critic. So you've got a
Yeah.
million sources and that's both the blessing and the hell that is the internet, right? So on one hand, like you can go and find out anything you want from sources that you like, and you're not stuck with just the selected expert's opinion because I mean, candidly, like who gives a shit what Siskel and Ebert had to say, right? Like anybody can be a movie critic in that sense, and like I might not agree with your takes on things. So it's great if you can get like other perspectives or not at all if you want, and that's great. Unfortunately, it also comes to the fact that you get everyone's perspective, and you can usually get sucked into opinions and beliefs that aren't healthy and positive and good and not necessarily accurate at all. And so it's both like a blessing to not have to rely on specific sources, but it's also part of our current hell that we don't trust any reliable sources, and that's a problem. That's a problem.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but as far as critics go, like I mean, I love it. I mean, folks can listen to us, and we have our takes on things. We may or may not be right. Others have different opinions, and so I think at the end of the day, you want to do a reasonable amount of research or not, and then go pick whatever it is that you want to pick and enjoy what you want to enjoy. See the movies you want. Like I'm going to go see Venom. People might hate it. People have been crapping on that movie series, since it came out. My family and I like we enjoy it. We have fun with it. Also, a really good soundtrack song there with Tom Morello, but it's fun, And so, like, I don't care if people like it or not. I like it, and so I want to go
Yeah.
check it out.
I think that's fair. That's fair. I think my views are dead. I just like you said, Siskel and Ebert. I just couldn't. But I do think again, it does point to like the larger problem. Now we got to listen to everybody's opinions.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
still people out on the internet who think the last Skywalker or like the last Skywalker or the last Jedi and whatever the last Skywalker one was are good movies. They fucking suck. So there's my opinion.
We can argue
So
about this another day, Dave. We can argue about this
yeah,
another
that's another this thing. Andy, what'd you do? What'd you do this weekend? Anything exciting?
So, exciting, no. Exhilarating in its own way, maybe. So I'll tell you a real short story, Dave. TMI in this, by the way, but you have to deal with it. So I haven't been able to go out for a long cardio workout in a few weeks between travel and some health issues on mine. Like I just wasn't able to get out there and commit to like long movements. I went out yesterday. I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go out and I'm going to bang out some miles. So I set out for it was going to be an 8 to 10 mile ruck march. I was going to go get some miles in with my bag. Lions weren't playing till late, so I had some time. So I was looking forward to that. Went out there, Dave, and I've had some, let's say, intestinal issues the last couple of weeks. So as I
Oh,
turned the corner around mile 5 or so, and I was coming back in, oof, man, my guts were like, you have to go to the bathroom right now. and and Dave, I spent about 2 miles in a panicked sweat with my sphincter so tight I could have crapped out diamonds if given the opportunity. It was intense. So thank God I finally made it to an outhouse and was able to do what I had to do and continue my march and finish successfully. But there was a time there where folks on the W&OD&D trail were about to see me have a minor accident. So that was my excitement for the weekend, aside from great NFL football. TMI, but there you go. How about you? Did you do something less disgusting and exciting this weekend?
well, I mean, other than just, I mean, the big hangout, but I mean, I will tell you like that's an uncomfortable. That's like a oh,
Oh my
like
gosh.
like that. We've all like look. There's nobody listening to this hasn't been in that position, and you're right on that edge,
Yeah.
Andy.
Yeah.
I had that in Iraq. I was out. I was like at the gym. Again, this is not like the greatest war story of all time, but like I'm sitting there and I'm feeling a little weird, but I'm doing it, doing my exercises, and then you're just like, oh, this is just going to be a little like push fart or something. Like, uh-oh,
Yeah.
this is not good. I actually did wind up partially shitting on myself there. That's a fun
Yeah,
time.
so I've got a different circumstance, but another day I'll tell you. So I had a similar experience in Iraq where I entered into a contest with one of our brigade NCOs, consumed 3.5 pounds of butterscotch pudding in the hot Iraqi sun, and
Oh,
let's just say I paid the price for it, Dave. I won the bet. I won the bet, but let's just say I was one pair of underwear less after that experience. Eating melted butterscotch pudding in the 120-degree sun isn't necessarily the move, let
there
alone
you
three and a
go.
half pounds of it. But we'll save that for another day because I'm sure listeners are already disgusted.
All right. Well, there you go. All right, Andy, I think that wraps up a pretty well, that's a good way to end on a Monday Veterans Day, talking about shitting yourselves. But always good. But we got a lot to talk to this week. I got some other topics I mentioned earlier, but got some things to head up for the rest of the week. But Andy, enjoy this day for all those veterans listening and those family members. Please take the time and properly reflect. And for those who aren't, please, remind those out there, reach out to those and thank them for their service as well.
Yeah.
So with that, Andy, I will catch up with you next time.